customer-first strategies in the era of AI. Can you please tell us who's speaking on this one?
Let me dig into that. I'm germinating the details. The session features speakers bringing diverse expertise: Christine Bourdon from Desaim, Karen Del Vescovo from Microsoft, Mia Huntington from US Bank, and Suzanne Dan from Wipro. They're blending the human touch with AI for customer-first strategies. Sounds like a gorgeous bouquet of insights awaits.
Yeah, a gorgeous bouquet of insights on the way, everyone. Please, everyone, a big welcome for the panel.
Excellent. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone? Coffee, caffeinated? We ready to go?
Yes.
All right,
yes.
Fantastic. All right. So thank you for coming. So imagine a world where it feels like AI knows you better than yourself. I've been trying to think, is that exciting or maybe a little alarming? Today, we're going to talk about elevating client experiences with AI, and I have some amazing leaders here with me today. I'm Suzanne Dan. I'm the CEO for Wipro Americas, and I'm joined by my friends and colleagues here, Mia, Karen, and Christine, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves before we get started.
Thanks, Suzanne. Nice to be here. My name is Mia Huntington. I am the Executive Vice President for Point of Sale Lending and Buy Now Pay Later for US Bank. Really excited to be part of the panel today. It's going to be a great conversation. A little bit about our product that we launched just here at Money 2020 last year is US Bank Advance. And we're in partnership with Repro. Was a huge way that we got from strategy to execution and got the product launched in a very short time frame. So super excited for the conversation today.
Thank you, Mia. Karen?
Thanks, Suzanne. Karen Del Vescovo. I am Microsoft's Corporate Vice President for our financial services industry. So we serve the largest financial services customers across banking, capital markets, and insurance. And I've been reflecting on being here with you, and I think it's fascinating to think that just next month will be the 2-year anniversary of ChatGPT, and January will be the 2-year anniversary of Microsoft bringing generative AI to the masses. So it's really exciting to see what's been progressed in that period of time.
Christine?
Morning all, I'm Christine Bourdon. It's actually my first official time using my married name, so it's wonderful. Don't forget my name. I'm the head of design and creative at Desaim. We're a full-service global marketing, design, service design agency underneath Wipro. So Microsoft and US Bank are some of our core clients, and I think we're really excited here because we're trying to push tech in a way that is also empathetic within the design process, and that's probably a lot of what we'll chat about.
Terrific. So we've all been listening at this conference to so many amazing applications of AI in financial services, helping advisors provide more targeted content opportunities, whether it's around a life event or it's around something you need, whether a loan or a mortgage. And then we hear about how it's providing us more accessible information in the time that we need it, whether it's external content, internal content, to make us more effective, more efficient, and able to protect our wealth, grow our wealth, and interact and build trust with the organizations who help manage our wealth. So a really exciting time, and we're already seeing this. Wipro just completed a study, and we spoke to 100 wealth management C-level clients. And what was very interesting, you talk about the timing, Karen, is that 42% of them said they are actively using AI in their organization. And 73% of them said it is creating a competitive advantage. So we can say AI vision, but it's reality, and it is what is needed for competitive advantage, and that's what I think we're seeing and feeling. So Mia, I'm gonna start with you around what are you seeing at US Bank? You have been working with Wipro, with Microsoft around bringing AI to elevate your client experiences. Tell us what US Bank is doing and what you're seeing as the future for AI in your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for a lot of financial institutions of our size, there's a crawl, walk, run approach definitely to get into the space, and we have to do it with responsibility and caution as you would expect of an organization of our size. So some of the early things that we've done that have been wildly successful. Some folks might be familiar with our AI chatbot that we use within our mobile banking app. It really is fantastic from so many perspectives. And everything we think about, and I know we're going to talk a lot about it today, is really with the customer centricity in mind. How are we solving a problem that happens to be done in a different way with AI? And I think that our chatbot does exactly that. So, really helping our consumer base understand where they're spending, how they're spending, predicting a bill that might be upcoming, how they might be able to save or take advantage of some other program or product within the organization. So that's one small example, but a very tangible example about how it can be absolutely customer focused and not just back office focused. From the product that my team runs, which is called US Bank Advance, it's a point of sale lending product. We're seeing a huge amount of traction there, and you can appreciate, when you're trying to make real-time decisions to lend to a consumer, at their point of a purchase decision, it's incredibly important to be able to do that, with speed and agility, and real-time matters. The other part of that that's so critical, where AI plays a really big role, is the personalization aspect of it. And just making sure that the right offer at the right time with rapid speed is getting presented to the consumer in that transaction sequence. So there's so many examples that we have within the bank of how we're contemplating and what the future holds, but those are just a couple.
Yeah, I think adding the intelligence in the chat bot so it feels that it knows you, and that personalization, so it's really relevant. Do I need that offer? What is it that I need to do? Do I need a mortgage? Do I need a loan? What is the opportunity for you to increase the trust you have also with the person?
Exactly. And like you said, it can be tied to a life event, right? The predictive nature of what we can see is, when we have your bank account, when we have your credit card, when we have other accounts with us, we can see, we can predict what might be that next thing that you require from your financial services provider.
Yeah. So, Karen, Microsoft has moved the ball so far forward around AI, and we've been working with so many clients like US Bank to move it forward, and we have our cognitive financial advisor assistant we've launched with Microsoft and Wipro to really bring intelligence into what a financial advisor can do in terms of helping their clients move forward. Tell us a bit about Microsoft's moving forward in financial services and where you see some of the best practices and things you're learning from your clients.
Yeah, so just to hit on some points you made, the broad applicability and the broad use of generative AI in organizations today, we see somewhere over 75% of our customers are using what we have M365 Copilot to really help with productivity in the office. We're seeing really strong use of GitHub Copilot, which is helping developers code faster. We see about 30% of developers accepting code from the use of GitHub Copilot. That is, of course, a competitive differentiation point for a lot of our organizations. TD Bank is using GitHub Copilot to refactor and recode many of their applications using GitHub Copilot and gaining a lot of advances there. And then in the area of customer interaction and customer engagement, we see so much going on in the industry. Ally Financial has a bot that they use to engage with their customers, and it's helping the agents focus on the human interaction while the technology is tracking all of the other pieces. And it's really helping improve the quality of their customer engagement. And then at Microsoft ourselves, we're using it to really rethink and reimagine our customer support organization. And I saw a demo of this, and the experience for the agent from how they used to have to interact with customers to how they interact with customers now is really transformative. We are improving customer sat. We're getting cases resolved over 20% faster. We're improving employee sat. The employees are feeling better about their work. They're feeling more productive and more engaged. And I think the really cool thing is the total punchline on this one is we're going to save $500 million this year using generative AI in our call centers to solve cases faster, to route things quicker to the right agents. And that's all through the generative AI capabilities that we have, within our tool set. So really big advancements.
Yeah, I think that's the game changer in terms of making all your agents the smartest agents because they have the intelligence of the assistant. And someone said to me recently, AI in the service of humans. And that really resonated with me as opposed to AI in control of humans. And how do we think about us smarter, better, faster in the contact centers is a huge opportunity for our coders, for our testers. It's an obvious one to improve productivity, but it also goes towards the client experience. It's not just a productivity improvement.
Yeah.
It builds the real trust. It builds the confidence in an organization when they know about you, and you can deliver the answer quicker and faster, and it's accurate.
Yeah, and with like our wealth advisors, right? They are really using this technology to prepare better for the customer meeting. Like, so back to sort of, the human is still very much in control, but they're leveraging the technology to provide a better experience and better support for their customers.
I think that's really well said because financial advisors are only able to add their value when it's not just about the data, but it's the insights they have on the relationship and what's important to their client to execute. And that's what we've been doing with our financial assistant, really making sure we game change. So Christine, you live and breathe design, and it's so critical to not just what the information is, but how is it translated to people who need the information and the experience they have using it. Tell us about your experience working with clients around AI and design-led thinking.
Yeah, so it's funny because I think that everyone here recognizes that you have to take AI very seriously, but most especially within the world of design, because for us, it's not only changing the end journey and the goal of what we're usually doing in a lot of our work, but also it's changing the inherent process for us and how our employees are functioning. And so we're trying to think about it of how do we create a world where we're doing it responsibly for ourselves and improving the efficacy of our work, improving the velocity, but then also improving the end experience or the business value impact, right? So I think, Mia, you said it, that every customer or company is already using AI, but generative AI and kind of the trend of it now has pushed it to where it's no longer just an experimentation, it's table stakes. And so when you think about it that way, you can't just be catching up with your competitors. Now you have to make sure you have it. You're building in the financial responsibility to invest within it. And so we're doing the same. At Design It, we've created this framework. We're now just launched 2.0. It's called Do No Harm. And the 2.0 is all centered around ethics within AI specifically. And it's making sure that when you look at it from both a holistic and an ethical consideration set, that it is really going after the customer-centric focus. And these are essentially a set of principles that you can slice your entire company or your work in a way that you are making sure you're doing it in an inherently sustainable innovation way with secure platforms and a customer-led focused engagement and experience. And so when you then tailor that with working underneath Wipro, which Design is a subsidiary of, Wipro has created this huge AI task force across all the subsidiaries where we all have representation within it, and we're sharing tools and processes and using design-led thinking, using analyst understanding of what's going on in the market and sharing that across industries. So we're able to see what successes are happening here or what we're doing in aviation or healthcare, and then using that to bridge you forward within banking, so you're not just looking at the Joneses next to you, right? Within the financial world, you're also looking at other markets to help you push faster and reevaluate the process. And I think that's what's really exciting about it, because while AI and tech has the potential to be a potentially really robotic solution, it doesn't actually have to be, because if you're infusing AI and empathy and personalization like we're talking about, you can create it in a way that it's essentially building that sense of a human response with the responsibility of getting the correct access to the information.
I love that you mentioned responsibility. One of the things at Wipro we began with was creating a responsible AI framework and ensuring that all 250,000 of our employees understood it and were trained. And that balancing privacy and trust and just making sure all the security that needs to go along with it is considered. So Karen, you work with clients across the ecosystem and globally. How do you help and think about the starting point for AI with your clients, and what are some of the best practices to think about when they begin their journey in AI? What do you say in that space?
Yeah, well, I said we're like 2 years into the generative AI journey, but like, let's be honest, AI is not new, and it's not new in the financial services industry. And we actually started a responsible AI council at Microsoft in 2016, and we came out with sort of a code of ethics associated with that. So fast forward to now, what have I seen over the course of the last 2 years, and what are some things that are really imperatives for our organizations? I would say first is you got to get your data in order, right? Like having your data governance principles, really understanding how your data is classified in your organizations, and really focusing on those things that help you remain compliant and are the controls in your organizations that you need to have in place around your data so that you can responsibly use AI. And then the other thing is really not anything technical as much as it is organizationally. You kind of need a little broader support to do things with AI. And that's one of the missteps I've seen where an organization or a part of a business wants to use AI and they try and go it alone, but they don't bring like the chief risk officer and the chief legal officer and all of these other people that have sort of the power to say no. They don't bring them along. I mean, you need to actually have them on board with you so that you can implement AI responsibly in your organizations.
Yeah, I love that you said data. I always think back to early days of development projects, and I used to always say data is the long pole in the tent. It's the hardest thing to make sure you have the right data, the quality of the data, and it's in a place that you can actually use it for whatever application you're building. And I think the same holds true for AI. When we think about data, cloud, they are enablers of making sure that the journey can be successful.
One last thing, can I just say, because this is the other thing that I found over the course of the last 2 years. You need to get your CEO on board. You need it to either be a board mandate that you're using generative AI, or your CEO needs to have a real opinion, and it has to come from senior leadership. And if you don't have that, again, I think there's too many people in the middle that can say no. But I think that's the other piece of it.
I mean, we're in the process of transforming what I think of as a technology services organization to an AI-powered organization. We're building it into our tools, into our solutions, into everything that we do, partnering with the likes of Microsoft. And the reality is, it starts at the top. That's at the board level and at the CEO level. And if that's not happening, we're not going to get it done. And I think that's true for all of our clients. So, strong point. Mia, as you think about how you can make sure you have a successful journey, is US Bank all in on AI? And what do you see as some future applications? You talked about the success of your product launch and the chatbot. What's next? How do you see this helping your clients and your employees?
I would pull on the thread of what you were saying, Karen, and it was super important as we were standing up this line of business. So first and foremost, we had the support of our CEO and chairman, Andy Zachary, to get this product off the ground. And as part of that, also to pull on the thread with where you were going, I can't stress it enough. It is really important to have all of the stakeholders, including, your risk and compliance people, your legal people, everybody that's in the mix, your credit, everybody, to be part of that journey with you. Don't build something or build a strategy and then think that they're gonna come along later and be comfortable with it. Take them along on the ride and every step of the way. It's still hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's still very hard to do new things, but it is really critical to get to that success. The other part that I would say that we did for our particular product, and just given the size of US Bank, getting into a space that was a little bit of the unknown, was we also partnered with the regulators to tell them in advance, this is what's coming, this is what you should think about, this is how we're thinking about it as a company. So I think there's so much potential. And to Karen's point, look, there's lots of use cases, but I think if you try to go it alone and you do it, bottoms up and try to do one use case at a time, it's going to be a really tough go. You need support from the top of the house. It needs to be a core part of your overall business strategy. How are you incorporating AI into what the future holds for you and how you're executing against your overall business strategy? So you asked the question around, what's next for us. I think a really big area for banks, and certainly for our product specifically around point of sale lending, is going to be just in the decisioning itself. How do we open up to more candidates for point of sale lending using more than just traditional credit practices, but also doing it in a way where it's explainable, we can justify the decision that was made, it's data driven, yes, because we have so many more data points, but that to me is the next evolution of where this has a big pop.
So Christine, how do you see us engaging with AI and Gen AI differently as we move forward? We're all using apps, we're all on our phones, we're using it every day in different ways, but what's next? And what's next for financial services in terms of how we engage?
Yeah, I said this tagline the other day that has kind of completely shifted my perspective on it and I think one of you said it earlier around personalization has really been the name of the game for the last few years. I fully believe that trust is the new experience. I think that is the only way you're going to retain your customers. And if you first focus on not only what's going to be the business value, how are we going to reduce manual data entry, but how are we going to build and enhance trust in a relationship that, if we're all frank, this is an industry that has a history of pretty credible harm, right? So you really have to be more responsible than usual because you're now separating a lot of that human connection and that relationship building into something that's inherently tech, which not everyone has true depth of understanding into, right? So if you focus on trust first, kind of the trick to it, I think, is actually if you look at building in transparency and control. So that's transparency around how are they using the data? What is this for? Why am I using this? And then control is not necessarily having them be able to manipulate any of the process, but even allow them to understand the education around that, allow them to make decisions in what data they are providing or sending. And that's going to allow you to retain that trust and continue to enhance it or build it, or at least let them move through the technology to see if that value that they wanted actually is present, right? And on a personal level, I'm very passionate about changing the customer landscape because I've recently been on my own wealth building journey and I really want women to learn how to improve investing and actually start to invest at the same scale and shift kind of wealth across much more dynamic and diverse populations. And I think AI and tech really has the ability to open that up. There's probably many of you in the audience that you're a fintech startup that is a robo-advisor, right? And so now everyone has the accessibility to invest in a minute with $1. And you have at home, my husband just started a fintech startup, and so we've been talking about the 1071 legislation around improving small business lending by removing bias inherently in the data entry that you submit an application into, right? And that removes a lot of ability for people to be able to start their own business just because a computer is reading them out. And so I think we as companies have a lot of responsibility, again, going back to that, in terms of doing this really ethically. And if we're talking about bringing everyone along the journey, having your CEO, your regulatory, et cetera, please make sure that that group is inherently diverse in and of themselves. Everyone from your developers to your stakeholders to your user testers, because that is where we are going to catch the issues, because they're grabbing data from a lot of systems that were built without a lot of diversity and with a lot of bias in them. And so you really have to be very intentional of how you build it. Don't build it for speed, build it appropriately, and then maybe actually regulatory will play along with us and we won't hit the same roadblocks, right? Because we can demonstrate that we did it ethically the first time. So again, going back to it, I really think trust is the core center of what you need to focus on, because if we're going to continue going after chatbots and algorithms, you really have to make sure you're balancing that with sustainable innovation and making sure that you're putting in that humanity first, because that's how you retain your customers.
It's an interesting point. We talk about bringing diverse people together to train these large, right, and to do all of this. But at the end of the day, no matter how diverse your team is, everybody has inherent biases. There will be biases in our systems. So that's why when we think about AI, this concept of AI in the service of people and humans is so important. and not controlling. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be bias. We know it's already in so many systems. So the question is, how do you continually enhance and make sure you're serving the needs of your clients? And that can be done through high touch. And that can be done through high enablement of AI. And I think that brings up a really great question to ponder.
Yeah, we were saying that the world of traditional banking is actually over. Like, no longer is the experience anything traditional. You're on a million platforms. And so if you are showing up in so many different ways and you as a human are not showing up, actually all of your technology that you've invested into, again, it goes back to trust and responsibility.
Agreed. So we're almost running out of time, so I'm gonna put out one last question for all of you. As you think about what we're seeing in this fast-paced world of Gen AI in financial services, what would be your bold prediction that we would see in the next year or two? We've seen so much change in the past 2 years. Mia?
Want to go first?
Go for it.
That's a tough one. You know, I think there's so much potential, and I think everyone's going to go at it in a slightly different way. I think what's going to be really fascinating to watch is where does that potential show up at the top of the house, like we've talked about. It is a bit of a race to get there first, I think, for all of us. And so I don't know that I have one specific prediction other than it's going to be a fascinating journey, and it's moving at such a rapid pace. There's a lot to come.
I think a couple things, like, I think generative AI is table stakes. I think somebody said that maybe already. So if you're not already there, you do have to start moving faster. You know, I think that it's just going to continue to help customers progress in, you know, multiple areas, customer engagement being one of the highest opportunities that we have. Real opportunity for innovation. We're seeing a lot of innovation and a lot of companies exploring new lines of business and new avenues to really grow their organizations and grow their businesses. And so those things will continue to evolve. And, you know, like, I'm the technology person up here in a way. Like, I could talk all about, like, all the large language models and all the small language models, and the speed at which the innovation is coming to market is immense. And so I think there's just a tremendous amount of opportunity for every organization to really embrace generative AI in their strategy and think about where they can really apply it, you know, to the highest value opportunities. Like, I think a lot of companies are like, oh, we'll start small, or we'll do something that's, you know, potentially not as impactful, where we see if you apply generative AI to the most expensive employees in your organization, that's where you're really going to make big advancements.
Agreed. And fail fast, right? Try and fail fast and move on. Yeah.
See, my prediction is pretty simple in that I actually think financial services is going to be the guardrails for AI. I think we will create our own kind of boundaries that we have to push against, because obviously all the regulation in this space, there's no other industry that I think will be so scrutinized. And, you know, the tech industry, they're just going to keep going rogue and keep putting out new tech after new tech, and we're going to figure out how to implement all of that. But I think this is going to be the space that we have to do the most to make sure that we don't become our own blockers by how we're moving through the process of implementing this. So I say that kind of as a word of caution, but also a huge opportunity in that we have the ability to potentially change the relationship with the regulatory bodies in this space. So that's kind of going to be my prediction. Maybe AI will be the thing to kind of push us all forward.
That would be fantastic. We need AI to help on the regulatory side as well, for sure. All right, well, thank you all. I really appreciate the partnership on this panel, and thank you all for joining. And you can see we're truly excited about elevating client experiences in AI. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.